Can you hear me okay? Sorry, I'm a bit late. Had to decompress a bit. I'm glad to be here. I'm gonna be on chat with this phone. Right on. How is everyone's week? Right, so originally I was sleep deprived. Honestly, I feel that. I got to bed at like 2 last night and then woke up at 8, which isn't the worst, but like a few nights earlier I had even worse sleep. It's just like my night sleep is just shrinking. Yeah, so I I feel that too. Um, but yeah, but other than that, I honestly I think it's school. So like that's like the first thing I wanted to talk about with this live stream is that I am back in university after not being in university all throughout the pandemic. I actually dropped out of school and I didn't think I was gonna go back, but here I am again. So I got a full plate, but I'm still making content and stuff like that. I'm hoping to actually, despite being the busiest I've ever been, I'm hoping to live stream every Wednesday night. Well, that's tentative. We'll see how that goes. And uh, yeah, that also explains about like my last video. Like I felt like was like a different vibe, and it probably would have been refined more. But honestly, last week's video was the first draft, so I knew that I was gonna get like like a lot of like pushback against it or whatever. So I was just like, well, here it goes. You know, it's better a controversial video than no video. Yeah, I just like I'm really trying to get into that routine. Uh, I first comment I question is by Vild. How do you say that? Vildfred Tao. And they ask, Terence McKenna did a lecture on art and the role of the artist shaman. Yeah, that was a good lecture. Wow, man, I would love to see a video in which you broke down what he was saying for dummies like me. Simplification for the win. Yeah, that's one thing Terence McKenna was not really good at. He very flowered up his language, which is kind of like his thing with like the whole machine elves to like try to like use like big words and like push the boundaries of language. But like it makes it really hard to understand what he's saying without like breaking down his sentence and like getting a dictionary out. But yeah, like, is that a direction you want my channel to go in? Like translating Terence McKenna into English? Yeah, like, honestly, I feel like, technically speaking, I could probably like just like make this YouTube channel just talking about Terence McKenna. There's like enough material there, but I think I just like to keep that in my kind of back pocket, kind of like for like videos when I can't think of anything to do, because I really like to come up with fresh ideas and stuff like that. I might like that's why I try to like just do things where like I reference Terence McKenna, or like I refute like a broader idea to like make another point, because that's like one thing I want to like be like on the sleeve about with last week too. One criticism that I got that like I thought was fair and legitimate was that like it was more about my beef with Joe Rogan than it was with about DMT or whatever, or how he ruined it. And yeah, like honestly, again, like I probably could have fleshed out my points better and made the connection stronger. But yeah, that's one of the things I end up doing a lot on this channel, because algorithm needs to have keywords like psychedelics, psychedelic this or that, specific psychedelics and stuff like that. So sometimes I'm like, oh man, I want to talk about this thing that's on my mind. How does it relate to psychedelics? So I have to sometimes jump through a little bit of hoops. And so like I knew that I also was gonna like, by doing that I might like lose interest in people that just want to talk about drugs. They want me to be just like a drug-based channel, or a lot of people want me to do certain things, but like trying to like cultivate an audience that likes what I do, and like I don't want like, so it's kind of like, because after the last video, my subscribers went +10, -10, +10, -10. It was pretty funny to watch. But yeah, I'm doing it for those, for the new peeps. But I got, so like maybe I'll do that though. Like specifically that art video was really cool, and me being an art university, I could definitely relate to it. I have done an artist talk where I brought it up and showed a clip from that video. There are like points that I really love about that clip, or that whole lecture, and then there's other points where I'm just like, so yeah, and I could talk about that and flesh that out. Right. So King Carnage wants to know why I don't like Jordan Peterson, because he makes a lot of sense, and this is like, honestly, a part of me is like, if he makes sense to you and he helps you, I mean, he's a self-help guy, and like, life is hard, so like any help that you can get is good, and if somebody inspires you, that's good. He's just never done that for me. Like, he started slipping into my MP3s, because at the time I was downloading MP3s from Terence McKenna, and then a lot of Terence McKenna pages started like slipping his talks in with it, and he would just like, has this routine of constantly being like, bootstrap yourself, clean your room, and take on individual responsibility. Don't worry about society's problem, because society's problem is the problem for the elites, basically. Like they can handle it. They can take care of it. Like, he's even said, like, unless you have a degree, and like a university degree, and have run several businesses and made a living for yourself, raised a family, then maybe you can have like a political opinion, or like, then you can be an activist. And it's like, that's just like such a high bar for a society. What kind of democracy is that, where like everyone's just struggling to survive, and we're just supposed to trust things are being run properly? Just like using really thin kind of what's that word, comparisons to justify hierarchy, comparing us to like the whole lobster thing, that like, in the animal kingdom we see hierarchies sometimes, right? So that must justify the hierarchy of capitalism. And it's like, no, that's like, you can't, just because hierarchies are a thing and they exist in nature doesn't justify all hierarchies. You know what I mean? That's just like a really bad argument. He also like doesn't understand patriarchy. He's contributed to a lot of misogyny and like incel stuff. Like he's made like a lot of video titles entitled like, just explaining away, like trying to debunk feminism and stuff like that. It's just like, it's really bad. And like, it gets me too, that like he created his career, like he like launched his career, as like as a public personality, not as like a university professor, as being like a reactionary to the law in Canada, C-16, I believe, Bill C-16, I believe it was called. And this was a law just to rectify what constitute harassment. So misnaming people, misgendering you is now considered harassment, or potentially hate crime. And he was like basically like made his whole career off of touting this was going to be like 1984, that people are going to be arrested for like this is a violation of free speech. And no one's ever been arrested. There's hardly ever been any fines or anything like that. It's more so, it's literally just to protect people from like people like this, that like just like refuse to respect your identity. You know what I mean? Like, if you if you're a guy and I walked up to you and I said, "Hey, miss, how are you, lady?" You know, it's rude. It's awful, and especially for like employers and stuff like that to do that. That like, it's very hurtful. You know, it's not cool. And yeah, so he launched his whole career off of like trying to get this small thing, like a small like trans right thing taken off the table. And especially it was like really big in America. Everyone was like, oh, Canada's going 1984. That's what happened a few years ago now. And like Jordan Peterson was like at the forefront of that, trying to like make it sound like, you know, it's 1984 now. Honestly, I could go on and on about Jordan Peterson, but he gives me kind of a headache. Like, none of his ideas have ever made any sense to me. But yeah, I am in the works of one day actually not doing like what I did with Joe Rogan, which was like just rant and just swear and say like fuck him basically. I wanted to like do like a well-structured like rebuttal of like his archetypes convention. Since I'm an archetype channel, a lot of people are like, man, you should like Jordan Peterson too, because he talks about archetypes. And I'm like trying to be like the antithesis of Jordan Peterson. Yeah, so for now, that's all I'll say on Jordan Peterson. Maybe later in the stream, I might say more. Oh, so many comments since then. Okay. Lots of nice comments. I'm looking for a question though. Trying to understand this, and I'm sure he doesn't mean leave it to the elites. He means go step by step. The elites are in a position to do it easy. People with education are taken more seriously in society. PhDs are valuable. Yes, it's true that like there are roles for intellectuals and fully educated people, but the point is that people are being barred from being educated. You know, for example, there's like a lot of like peasant rebellions who are completely illiterate, you know, but they understand political theory because they live that oppression. They know what it's like to make food for like private corporations and not get any of that back. Spend all day like slaving just for like pennies, and they live in like uninsulated houses with cracks in the ceiling, you know, and so their criticisms are valid. There are people living in like temporary shelters who say like we need to have shelter, you know, that's valid. And for like someone like Jordan Peterson to walk up being like, well, how many businesses have you run? Like, that's just not a way to run a proper democracy, you know. And he really likes to brush over the harms of capitalism and make it seem like it's either benevolent or the lesser evil of like any other political alternative. Yes, first of all, your life, get it in order, then go a step ahead till you reach the position of the elites. And right, yeah, so this is exactly it. But like, how are you supposed to get your life in order when you don't have enough money to feed your family? You know, like, and what order means something different to everyone. Because for a CEO to have like thousands of people living in poverty, desperate to become employed so they can just get a small share of the wealth that they created for you, is it's just like a very patronizing and just very cold position. You know, people need things like shelter, and they have the right to protest that. And I know you said that like he's not advocating that you can't. That's like we should be taking steps to like make order for ourselves. But if you actually read his stuff, he's speaking to a specific class of people, and he's not speaking to people who's actually really struggling with like poverty and stuff like that, because people like that know that like it's hard to get your life in order when you're working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, for example, or you just can't find any job and you're literally having to like live on the street and stuff like that. Yeah, so yeah, Peterson is just he's like he's basically a traditionalist who tries to pose himself as a radical, like as like a radical philosopher, when his whole thing is just like something your parents would say, just like the world is the way it is, no alternative, clean your room. It's great philosophy. Yeah, I guess we're just all on Jordan Peterson now. Um, yes. I've actually tried to like see like what other people get out of him, and like I think he does something similar to Terence McKenna, which is like using really big language, big words, and kind of like so a lot of people are able to like project their own meaning into what they say, and it's not really that what they're saying is profound or legitimate or Terence McKenna like has a lot more thought-provoking stuff though. Like with JP, I'm just like always like, what are you even talking about? I can't even like enter into it. Yeah. I can rant on and on about JP. I actually wrote down. Here we go. There's three things I wanted to talk about today. I think of him more as someone who doesn't sugarcoat how society runs and tries to wake you up and take action. Honestly, like that's the thing. Like for me, he seems to be like trying to do the opposite of like trying to like pat people on their head. Like I understand like the stand up straight and like chin up kind of mentality, and like people really need a father figure like that in their life, and especially when they're like seem to be speaking like such words of wisdom or whatever. But like his actual message, whenever I listen to him, it's like he's saying the opposite. He's saying, unless you have a political degree and you're basically wealthy, I don't care about your opinion. You're just like a whiner, and you should clean your room before you complain about society or whatever. And it's like, it's not mutually exclusive. Like, for example, I could protest like for valid reasons and have a messy room, or I could clean my room and protest. And it's. Sorry, I'm going off on this again. I had three things I wanted to talk about today. That's one, like I already mentioned it last week. Just explained myself. Just that it was first draft rant, and I still don't know how to feel about it. Even though like I do agree with most of my points, I just don't think I like made the best points, or like there's still like more I should have said or something. When parents say clean your room, it is annoying, but when JP says it, everyone's like, wow, you changed my life. Yeah, honestly, I feel that. Yeah. Self-help people tend to bug me, because they tend not to like recognize their privileges, or if like if they were poor at one point, or like suffered through poverty or hardship, then once they're like making books again, then they're like, I was in a rough spot, but now I've made it. And it's like, that's just like the capitalist realism that they try to get you in. It's like they're trying to like build everyone up to believe that they can achieve and they can like earn that middle class life, when these are things that just should be basic human rights. Like, why should someone have to go to school and get like 2 different degrees to like be able to like make 300K a year just to buy a decent house and like raise a family. You know, it's just like we put such high expectations on individuals when, you know, when people should just be granted, just by virtue of being alive, the rights to shelter, food, and water, and that should be ensured by the community. But we're like so alienated from each other, and that's why like it aggravates me when people preach individualism like JP does. Yeah, artists don't clean their room. Yeah, the other, and I also talked that I'm in university now, so I'm gonna try to start doing shorter videos. I actually tried to do that last week. It was like, okay, I'm gonna try to keep this 900 words, and it ended up being freaking like 2,000 words, and I cut a bunch of it out too. Yeah, so like I'm gonna strive for like 8-minute videos. We'll see how that goes, just for a little bit. Did psychedelics have a before and after effect in your art? That's hard, because I started psychedelics pretty early, and I honestly feel like psychedelics actually what led me to art, because like, I mean, I was into art before that. I drew a lot when I was in elementary school. I thought might become a video game designer or something, or a cartoonist. But then once I started like getting into psychedelics, which first was psychedelic music, I was just like, Strawberry Fields Forever, this is amazing. And I was just so drawn by the aesthetic. That's why I got into these things. Someone commented on last week's video being like, DMT finds you and sometimes in the most the strangest ways or whatever. And I'm just like, honestly, I probably would have stumbled upon DMT without Joe Rogan, just given a little bit more time, because I was already getting into psychedelics at the time. I didn't need to hear it from his voice. Yeah, and I forget where I heard the term machine elf, but then that's what really like made me interested in DMT. I'm at the for a while I believed that psychedelics find you, but I eventually was like, no. If you want to take psychedelics, you seek it out, and then you do it when you're ready, not when fate or whatever happens. Because like you might be like, yeah, one day I might be ready, and then it falls in your lap, and you're like, actually, maybe it's not the best day. But you might be inclined to do it just because it's like, oh, the universe is telling me. But yeah, it did have an effect on my art for sure. And it's just been an ongoing thing. Like there was definitely a before and after with Salvia. That's for sure. With mushrooms, kind of, yeah. Yeah, but like I get all these psychedelics kind of like brought something out of my art. It's like, because whether it's music or visual arts, you're trying to convey a feeling, and psychedelics is largely like just an amazing feeling that I'm trying to convey, or just an interesting feeling, something different. Do I have any experience with 2CB? I actually don't. As far as I know, I don't have like any like what would be called like research chemicals experience right now. I've read some really interesting reports. So if you recommend 2CB, I might look into it. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a luxury to buy a family either. It's just like, I'm 27. It would be like, sometimes I'm like, yeah, it would be really nice to raise a kid, but it's like, how? How? It's impossible. You can barely afford this. Sorry. When was the first time you tried Salvia Divinorum, and did it tell you anything? Honestly, there was no message, no clear message. I was just like really left like, what the hell was that experience? And that was late 2016 was when I actually, technically I had tried it before that, but my first major experience, like I've tried, okay, so like I tried Salvia a bunch of times, probably like at least a dozen, but in terms of like actual like breakthrough trip, like significant trip, I've only really done it once. And then like I've hallucinated off of it a few other times, but like in terms of like my big trip, that was I think December 2016. Yeah, and that was like with the 3 big hits, and now I'm like trying to like ease it back into it because it was just like it just shocks your system or whatever. I were on 2 leaves and thought of a deep insight, as if I found myself in my own memories and felt another presence telling me about it. Interesting, interesting. Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about microdosing salvia. Like I have done it in small doses, and honestly, it's an entirely different thing. And I was talking to one of the admins of our Reddit about this too. That like people need to talk about microdosing and lower dosing salvia more, because it's just like people like think like, oh, salvia, I need to hallucinate, but like if you smoke just a little bit, it's like a pretty chill vibe. It's pretty nice. Joey asks, has the psychedelic ever given you a really deep insight which then caused you to make a drastic choice for the better? If so, what was the drug and the choice? Right. Okay. So yes. Like, so I created like narratives in my mind as soon as I started having psychedelic experiences, because like like from peak to end of the experience, there tended to be like this narrative, like almost as if, especially with mushrooms, that there's something it wanted to show you. It would be like, go to this location, and you would go to that location and something would be there, and you're just, once it brings you there, you're peaking, and it's like, and then you have all these like revelations, and then you're like, and then other interesting things happen too, and then you're just like trying to write everything down in your journal so you don't forget anything. But as I kept doing it, I started to realize that there was this trend that like those locations it was leading me to were just the same forest, and that like that's just where I was like really comfortable being on psychedelics. Then like later I like once I started doing like LSD, I was really that's when I was in art college, so like I was getting all these like cool like art college concepts, like the what was that called, the artist toolbox. I wonder if Kit would remember. It was something toolbox, like the art theory toolbox or something like that. And it was just about like breaking down the conceptions of like, where do our opinions come from? There are common beliefs or common sense, but where does that come from? And like, what does things mean? Theory toolbox, yeah. And just like around that time, and that in combination with LSD, I was just like, yes. That's when I actually started Interbeings, and I forget if I called them Interbeings at that time, but it was when I like first did LSD, and I like was drawing on my page, and I'm like, all of a sudden had this realization that, so if the multiverse is real, if like the infinity, sorry, not infant, if infinity eternity is real, then everything I'm drawing, like these little characters, they exist somewhere in a universe. They're actually real. There is an alternate reality where these things are walking around. And so like that's when I like just started doing like all these like really stupid, messed up cartoon characters that would like just like be in these like nonsensical situations, and just like the whole series had the like background theory that these things were real in a separate universe. So yeah, Doctor Strange, multiverse scene of Doctor Strange. Yeah, exactly. But a lot of times multiverse is like displayed as like infinite use. But the thing is that like if it truly is infinite, then there's just like an array of yous, and eventually it would taper out, and you would eventually become unrecognizable from yourself. Like, not just a reality where you're a clown, but also a reality where you're short and a clown. Or maybe you're a short frog clown, you know? Or maybe like there's like it's on a different planet, and I don't know, like there's like, it's just so mind-boggling, all the different possibilities or whatever. But yeah, I eventually like just realized that like psychedelics tend to produce pseudo revelations. I think the greatest example of this is Psyched Substance did a trip report a long time ago. And he was saying that on LSD, he like had this revelation that everything was spirals. Like it was like cyclical and spirals. And he's like, oh man, this is the answer to the universe. And you come down and you're like, everything spirals? It's like, I mean, Fibonacci sequence, sure, but you know, like, does that really solve all the world's problems? No. Has there ever been an intense questioning of free will? Yes. Because, like, again, like, there's that whole sensation, like, of being drawn to places, or that, like, I even had this on LSD, where, like, it felt like throughout the trip, it was almost like a script that I was walking through. I'd walk somewhere and something would happen, and then I'd walk somewhere else and something else weird would, and like that would never happen, happened. And and yeah, like I think like this is like it creates this this sense that one, there's like this fate, or that there's like some being in the sky kind of thing, like drawing you to certain things. Like there's like this whole like hand of fate thing. But if it's true that like our perceptions are just changed, and honestly, when it comes to free will questions, I think the science is still developing, but it's like it's still wonky to think about that like every decision that we make, like every time we decide to make an action, our brain actually decided like a moment or two before we think we made the decision. And so, man, and it's like, what do you do about that? You still got to take responsibility for yourself, but it's just like, hey, science says there's no free will, so Your Honor, I'm innocent. Let's see, I missed a few. Thoughts, it's just really fast spiraling that touches the other spheres. Yeah. Gets it all because it gets out of orbit. Yeah, there's like a big like cycle thing for sure. I don't know what else to say about that. It's funny how everything Timothy Leary said is being proved now. King Carnage, could you give me some examples of things he said that's becoming true? There's like some cool things that I like about Timothy Leary, but I don't know much about his predictions. Fractals, Druid sticker, vaporwave. Okay, tell me when you give me a question. Until then, I'm gonna talk about next week's video. By the way, like I'm thinking, because I want to do this every week, I'm gonna try to keep these videos or live streams shorter. So I'll probably go for about a half an hour more. Try not to push it too far tonight. Last time I was like, yeah, I'll just go for 2 hours max, and it ended up being well over 3 hours. But you don't want to kill me, do you? I'll die. Right, so the third thing I wanted to talk about, which I'm really excited about, is this week's video. So I've been making developments with how we're going to make a database for Salvia archetypes, and so like the original plan was to like have web scrapers like pick up the keywords, like scour the internet like on Salvia websites or whatever, and pick up the keywords that would be archetypes. And it sounded great to me at first, but I still appreciate this idea because it helps me work through how it would work. Sometimes you gotta like think of ideas that wouldn't work before you get to the ones that will. And I'm still not entirely sure this one will work, but I got a new question, but I'm gonna get to it after I explain this. But yeah, so I created a kind of survey, like a forum for people to volunteer. If ever you're like reading a Salvia trip report, you can submit a form, just like write down, like fill in all the blocks, and then just like list all of the archetypes you see in the trip report, and then you just submit it. And that's basically it. And I'll show you all about it. For me, it'll be tomorrow, but for you, it'll be Friday, because I'm gonna film it tomorrow, and then you'll see it on Friday. And I'm really looking forward to it. We'll see what happens. Maybe like nothing will come out of it. Maybe it'll just be a stupid idea. Or sorry. maybe it just won't work. But I'm hoping that it'll be a cool thing, and it like could pick up speed or whatever. I've been emailing back and forth with Salvia, our Salvia Reddit page admin, and we're gonna like collab to get it on the Flavs, how's it going? Yeah, we're gonna get it onto the Salvia subreddit like banner, so that would be cool. And like, because I'm really hoping, because like right now all the forms will go to me, but I'm hoping that I can like patch the torch onto like I don't know, like a committee. I want these like the results to be publicly available. I don't want to be like the leader of this. I'm trying to like make a boat and just like ship it off. Like I want it to be the community thing. Yeah, and then like we'll see how it goes. Like if we can get enough forms and like verify the forms, then we could start like actually looking at some decent data and be like, okay, because like, you know, we probably couldn't get every single Salvia trip report on the internet, but like theoretically there's only like a finite number of Salvia trip reports online, right? So eventually we might actually like document them all, and we can actually be like, of all the reports we found on the internet, this is how many times the shepherdess was brought up. That would be great. That's what I want to see. And like, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, from there we're not gonna be like, therefore God, or therefore metaphysics, or whatever. But like, it'll just be like, that we'll actually have the data to be like, wow, that's so that there is a phenomenon there. Or it might even be the other way around, where we like, oh, this archetype that we thought was very common only like really happened in these two, and it's actually just peculiar. Or maybe we might find some trends where like, oh, well, this archetype only comes up when smoked, or for people under this weight. I don't know. It probably wouldn't happen like that. But you know, we don't know like what kind of things we could find out about it. So that I think that would be awesome. So yeah, I'll talk about that more on Friday. Right. Everything he claimed, Timothy Leary, that is, everything he claimed about LSD, all of his words that people around him ridiculed him on it. For example, the life-changing healing of trauma. Right. Yeah. Like, he was a psychologist, and I think that is pretty interesting. I would like to see the clip where he talks about like healing trauma with LSD. Like I remember he did like some like experiments or whatever, And I don't think like his practices or his technique was very good. Like, I'm very glad. Like, I wouldn't want Timothy Leary as my therapist or my psychologist. Um, it's really cool. There's this one audio recording of, it's like a 40-minute LP or 30-minute or something like that, and it's called Turn On, Tune In, Drop Out. And it's frustrating because like everything Timothy Leary ever made is basically called the same thing, a lot of the times, anyways. But this specific thing was like it's an art piece, and it's supposed to like guide a person through the trip. Maybe you've already heard it. He's like, Ralph, are you ready? Are you ready to die and be born again? He's like, no. First, you must enter a state of grace. And I'm just like tripping while listening to that. It's pretty. It's far out. Uh, yeah, it's weird though. It's a weird one. Although I don't think that one's supposed to be. Maybe it's like a trauma healing thing, but like it's supposed to be like trying. I think the idea was um, to rehabilitate like criminals or like murderers or something like that, you know. Um, have you heard about Josephkins? No. At least I don't think so. If you can fill me in on who Josephkins is. PP Verdad says, I was creating a webpage about my Salvia Divinorum trip. Maybe I could make even an entire site just for the Interbeing community if you'd like. Yeah, we can talk about that. Shoot me a message and maybe we can get something going, because that would be cool. Although if this is about the archetype project, I think we'll like try to like not make it the Interbeing channel, like thing. I want it to be like archetypes, you know, like this is an effort done by the online Salvia community. Not, yeah, like I don't want to like make this as like an ego project. This is something I'd like want like very interesting for the community, people who are interested in Salvia. And you know, like it's hard not to fall into the trap, because like this is YouTube and this is how like algorithms work, but like, you know, we try to like avoid the whole like parasocial kind of like internet not star, but you know what I mean, like enter micro celebrity, whatever they're called. But yeah, it'll be a cool project, and honestly, if you had like a internet making experience, that would be cool thing to set up. I'm still trying to figure out how these things work, but I'm really excited for this week's video. You could be an animator and animate your experiences. What course are you taking in your university? Honestly, I have definitely thought about doing this. Yeah. Right now I'm like just trying to juggle doing art, doing videos, making music, which has like mainly been on the sorry, big loud car out there. Yeah, my music making's kind of been on the back burner, just because like whenever I'm like, especially when I'm in school, then like I have to like focus on whatever I'm doing in there, like, you know, and a lot of times I have to take courses that I'm not particularly interested in. I tried to take an animation course, but for whatever reason I couldn't get into that course, and so I was forced to take a different course. And that kind of happened this semester too, where I wanted to take another painting course, but instead I had to take a sculpture course. And honestly, I like sculpture, but because this is an intro sculpture course, I already like got familiarized with all the sculpture materials in college, but then university's making me do that again. So I'm like, now I'm just like doing the basics of wire sculpture, for example, and like I'm not putting down wire sculpture. Wire is cool, but it's just not my medium, you know. I think like if I was going to make sculptures, I'd want to like build like little stone or clay things, like hand building stuff. But yeah, but we're doing like abstract stuff, playing with form, and so it's like it's okay. I don't mind it, but yeah, just like universities, how they like set up. It's like you can never like do the things that you're actually passionate about. It's just like it's like, oh, you don't have that prerequisite, or oh, this one's full, or this is not running this year, blah blah blah. Always get screwed out of it. um, oh, and what I'm taking in university, I'm trying to do fine art paintings, but I think it might end up just being a Bachelor of Arts, just because complex reason they explained to me like twice now that I still can't understand. Just like the way they like compile credits and stuff like that, it's like it's overly complex. It doesn't make sense. All these electives and stuff. Discord, social, or email. I would really love to have a conversation with you one day, and I would like to have, like to, like what you have to say. But obviously, my conclusions differ, so it could be, it would be definitely be a treat. Yeah, I'd be down. Yeah, just like you could shoot me a message on anything. Instagram is probably I find the easiest way to communicate back and forth. But you can also email me. Like I'm a fairly informal emailer. Sometimes I try to keep it formal, like I put my name at the bottom, but um, but yeah, just like whatever. Timmy gives me the heebie-jeebies. Yeah, yeah, I agree with you, Nicholas Carlo. He just like he's almost like too smiley. Like he wasn't, as far as I know, he's not a cult leader, right? But like he it felt like he got so close so many times to being a cult leader. Like he was like really adamant that people would start their own religions and drop out, which I just find is like a weird way of doing like a commune thing. I think he was just trying to make it like a very like different thing than like communism. It was like, but it's sometimes it's referred to as acid communism, the dropouts. Um, but yeah, like but the whole like religious component of his thing was a little bit weird. Like, cause he like LSD, like doing high doses of LSD all the time, really convinced them that there were like spiritual beyond powers. um, yeah, he really like reads to me as someone who just like did a whole bunch of acid like right during the peak of like when this is like a new thing for especially like Western white people, and was just like so like flabbergasted by like the spectacular experience that he just like espoused things. He never like really seemed to have like a real like thoroughly thought through ideology or anything like that. He was just like it seemed like he was just saying all these things. There are a lot of things he said that I agree with, and then other things where I'm just like he's just being cringy. Like there was this one a lecturer he was talking to at university where he was like calling everyone robots. It's like my little robots. It's like, how patronizing is that? Calling everyone little robots. I'm gonna start calling you guys robots. My little robots. Should I say that instead of psychonauts at the beginning of my videos? You know, just as a treat for everyone who watched the live stream, next video I'll say robots. And you're late, but that's okay. For a very important date, yeah, that's good. Uh, Nicolas Cage claims to have awakened his inner shaman to play the role of Ghost Rider. I'm thinking he was tripping on shrooms. I have heard rumors. I haven't like verified this, but I heard rumors he liked to eat mushrooms with his dog, which I don't know if that's animal abuse. I haven't looked up if they can eat mushrooms, like magic mushrooms. I think they can. Yeah, weird guy, Nicolas Cage. He's a very funny person. He's like, you know, like what pickles are to the rest of the food, like the whole like food groups, Nicolas Cage is to like actors. just funny somehow, just for the way he is. He's not a comedian, he's just kind of funny. Nicolas Cage, I'll just start chuckling. um, Learning processing JS would be very useful for animating visual associated with psychedelics. Is processing JS, like, is that a program that you use? I use Apple products. Like, I have a Mac. Hopefully one day I can get a PC. I would love to get like a touchscreen, like what are they freaking called? Like touchpad things. Yeah, because then I would be able to like draw and like I've been making cartoons too lately. Trying to like draw more. Learn to Buddy. Yeah. I learned what was it? C plus. Oh man, I'm like, yeah, I know how to code. I learned. What is that called? Like C plus plus? Frig. I can't even remember. I don't even know the code I learned. I took a course on making little robots. Just talking about robots. I was making my little robots. I made one that like if you waved your hand in front of it, it would like turn its head and like make a little noise. I made one that like it was kind of a failed project, but if you pet it, it would purr. It didn't work out very well. um, I'm a fine artist, sculptor, and animator. Sick. King Carnage, do you have Instagram? I'd like to see your stuff. Paul McCartney claims animation is for children, adults, and drugs. Okay. I don't know. Paul McCartney bugs me. Like, I don't hate Paul McCartney, but, like, I don't agree with all of his opinions. Like, I don't know, like, he, like, always seemed to suck up to the Queen. Like, he's a big, like, Queen boy that, like, always left me with a bad taste in my mouth. I'm like a loyalist or something. He's also a billionaire, so I don't like billionaires. Yeah, that makes me a bigot. If you transfer to Evergreen State College, you can handle your degree a really free-form manner. I got both my grades from there. Maybe. I actually tried transferring to a different school earlier this year, and it didn't go well at all. But maybe it was because I need to like transfer to another art school. So if Evergreen is an art school, they might actually take my courses. But the thing is that whenever I transfer, you lose a lot of credits, and I'm already in my 4th year. So to lose all my credits, I think I should just finish this degree and maybe I'll look to get a different degree. But you know, at that point, I'm just like mounting on my loans. It's like, because a part of me is like, maybe I should just keep going to schools and just like keep building up my loan forever, because as soon as I'm not in school, then I have to pay them back. So just like trying to like stay in school until society collapses. It doesn't feel like it's gonna happen anymore. I was really hoping this whole like pandemic would make it collapse, but no. Yeah, if you go back last year and watch my video, wowee, what the fuck is going on? I was like projecting that the world would not be the same after this pandemic, and I mean, like, yeah, technically it's not really the same. A lot of things are different. Definitely doesn't feel the same, but like the status quo, man, don't underestimate that. It's the status quo. It's gonna be, it is the tendency for human societies, so unfortunate. But yeah, I'll look into Evergreen. I'm not sure where Evergreen is. I'm currently in Mi'kma'ki, Jabuktuk. I forgot to do a land acknowledgement at the start of the live stream. This live stream is taking place on Mi'kma'ki, unceded territory. It is now known as Nova Scotia, Halifax. And yeah, so like I haven't really like gone to school outside of Canada. Evergreen is American, which I'm guessing it is, but maybe I'm wrong. Anyone got a good source for bulk Delta 8 flower? No, I'm sorry, I don't. Anyone in chat does. The Spring Groove LSD experiment on YouTube. You must watch if any of you haven't. Yeah, I'll check that out. I'll write it down. Okay, so it's... Yeah, okay. We got 5 more minutes. We're good. Spring Groove LSD experiment. Man, I love psychedelic experiments. Aren't they the best? Aren't they the best? I'm just wondering if Peterson... People are talking about dark web stuff now. Oh man, did I like really get back far back into the messages? Nick Cage cat ate shrooms, so he had to join the cat. It was an accident. Oh. I thought the story I was told was that he just like he eats mushrooms with his dog on the reg. I don't know, Telephone Man. It's a coding language. Yeah, it's built around making visuals on the web. I'll shoot you a link. Oh, right, yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm learning languages is hard for me. Like I'm pretty sure I have attention deficit issues. I haven't been diagnosed with anything, but sometimes I just cannot concentrate on things. People with 1 to 100K work hard. People with 250 to 1 million are clever. 1 to 100 million are smart. But billionaires are just selfish, lol. Thanks for the link to Nicholas. Let's see. Oh, you're dyslexic and you're... Man, I didn't think about how hard it might be to have dyslexia and having to code. That sounds like it'd be hard. Who do you think is the best visionary artist? That's hard. I don't know, like... stays most authentic to the experience. Okay. Well, first thing I just want to say, like, in terms of the best, I'll just say like my favorite or whatever. But like, art is very subjective, so there aren't really like anyone that's better or worse. Honestly, there's a lot of art people who've made like Salvia artwork that are just like pencil crayon or just like online paper, like with pen, and I still like value that art. I think that's really good. You know, I don't want to ever like discredit anyone for making art. Like, you don't have to be making these big, amazing, hyper realistic, proportional things. I don't know. Do I have any experience with mescaline? Unfortunately not. In Canada, I said this last live stream too. In Canada, it is legal to get peyote. There's a place, I'm pretty sure it's an indigenous business where they sell it. But you can't extract the mescaline. And I think like if I were to try it, I'd probably want to just have the mescaline because I feel like there's a lot of other stuff in peyote that might it might upset my tummy. I would like if I was like traveling or I like visited like a place where they like did like ceremonial like traditional peyote rituals, I might be tempted to be like, okay, yeah, sure, but otherwise, like if I was just doing it on my own time, I'd like to try. I think mescaline would be the one I'd like to try. Pretty hard to draw hyperspace with a pencil and paper. Yeah. Well, with like DMT, especially like if you're trying to like do like all the like patterns or whatever of what you saw, you can't really capture it. But like in terms of like people like breaking down like how like for the wheel example, for example, like breaking down how like time like broke up into like moments and like was spinning and that like the room was splitting up like this. You really only need like basic line work, and I'm into minimalist stuff too. So like, yeah, I'm always here for it. Oh, but I forgot to answer the question. Um, I think the best artist who does the most accurate artworks for Salvia or psychedelics is probably Salvia Droid. I honestly like Salvia Droid. It's just like a big inspiration for me. Um, they've just like made like a lot of like great artworks, and they do a really great job. Um, yeah, like I was always a huge fan of like Alex Gray, of course. How could you not be by being a visionary artist? But lately, he's just like been bugging me more and more about like with just like little things, like um, like he's like still trying to like build his chapel and stuff like that, and like now like that I'm like getting closer to having an art career. Like when I was like younger in high school, I was like, that is so dope. You're making your own art chapel. And now I'm like, man, that just feels like very like egocentric, to like think that like your paintings are like so special that you need to build your own chapel for it. Like not even an art gallery, a chapel. I don't know. Yeah, but like that's just the thing. Like I'm just changing as a person. I'm growing. Uh, like the Net of Being painting is just like probably the best visionary painting ever. Ever. It's just amazing. Um, Salvia Droid is pretty awesome. Didn't he remove all of his IG posts though? Honestly, I'm not sure why and what they're doing with that. I think they did that a few times. Like they like wiped everything and then started over, and then like just wiped everything again. They started a side Instagram channel where they were making like more dark art that was like not psychedelic based, which uh, leads me to believe that they are probably like struggling with some like either mental health issues or just being in a bad place right now. They have their own Patreon too. They're also trying to do like 3D virtual reality art landscapes, and I loved those so much. They were so cool. Um, they did. It's on YouTube too. They did this one where you can just like look around and like there's just like gnomes at a bar or whatever. It's so good. They're very inspired by Legend of Zelda as I am as well. um, um, yeah, that is a problem. When I tried to do San Pedro tea, it didn't work because I threw up violently almost immediately after consumption. Right, yeah, and like with some ceremonies, like the purge is kind of a thing, but you know, from like like I'm just not sure if it's always really that healthy. Like some people can vomit like really like profusely and like actually injure themselves. Um, like I don't think vomiting is always a desirable thing. Like if it's a part of the ritual, then and it's like supposed to be a part of the cleansing process, sure. Like with ayahuasca, it usually stays in your stomach for a little bit, but like if it just comes right back up, it does not have enough time to like absorb. Um, yeah, so it's hard to keep down. Yeah, that's why I was thinking like if the extracted mescaline might be better. There's probably resources online. I know Psychonaut Wiki is probably like the best resource I found. I mean, there's some areas on the website that's like kind of underdeveloped because it is a community project like to build it up. Um, but there's like a lot of information on there. I was just like I'm a lot of times like staggered by how much psychedelic information on there. Like you'll like look up San Pedro and there's like so many different ways of taking it and what it does on every dose and different ways of preparing each method, and oh man. and like how to minimize side effects. It's like all that good stuff. Have you ever had a breakthrough DMT experience or ayahuasca? The last video I made on Joe Rogan, I described my I was describing my experience on DMT. The whole thing about Atlantis and the elves or whatever, but it was like, I feel like it was a semi breakthrough, you know? Like I was fully hallucinating. I had an out of body experience, but I didn't like fully like, you know, usually how it's described is like you like really go the distance. And I felt like, oddly enough, it felt like I got to the ceiling and then came back. You know, I didn't like leave I didn't go into outer space so much, you know? It really felt like the elves could feel my anxiety and like, they like just like, now we got you, buddy. You're going back down. But yeah. And I've just been putting off doing it ever since. That's just like on my to-do list. DMT, dishes. It's just like on the on the list. Alex Gray has definitely authentically seen some things that's obvious in his art, but the whole thing he's building with his wife gives me weird vibes. The chapel is supposedly for many people of art, though. Yeah, like I don't want to totally shit on the whole chapel of that he's creating, because like it is like a visionary art community cafe, and it is pretty cool in some senses, but it also like feels like very like, I don't know, like I feel like if you wanted to create an art gallery that specifically features visionary artists, that's a cool idea. But he's trying to create a chapel that features his artwork almost as like a loose kind of religion. Like he has like a whole like spiritual philosophy that he's trying to like propagate through his paintings, which is like basically propaganda. But like it's not quite a religion though, but you know, you're kind of like making it out to be one when you're like saying this is a spiritual experience. These paintings are supposed to be mirrors of the greater spiritual existence, and we're in a chapel. Like, I don't know. It's hard to say though. Yeah, like, again, like you said, it's just like a little bit of weird vibes, you know. I'm always just like a little bit, it's a step back from anything that starts to feel a little bit culty. Again, like not saying Alex Gray is a cult. I'm not trying to say that, and he's not a religion either, as far as I know. But like, just the whole chapel thing, like that primarily features your own art. Like it's a little bit pretentious, I find. But if there's anyone that can like be pretentious about their art as someone as skilled as Alex Gray, is like I think that's the only reason why it's tolerated. Like, could you imagine if someone who like can't do perspective very well, or like is still struggling as an artist, builds their own chapel for their own art? That would be fucking hilarious. I saw the Net of Being on my last Salvia trip. Oh, dope. It's very dissociative, so I'm not going to do Salvia again. Oops. Oops, I just removed Kit as a moderator for some reason. I just messed up and removed Kit as the moderator. I've done Datura, and life itself is just compromised of moments. When you forget where you are is the point when you start daydreaming. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I would like to hear some of the experiences. I'm like, I encourage anyone to like, if you've had a psychedelic experience, it's really beneficial for like greater scientific knowledge in the community, to document your experiences and trying to be as objective as possible with them. Like, not saying that you can't say like what emotions you were feeling or whatever, but just like, but try to like just document what happened. For example, like if I'm like, if I really believe the Salvia shepherdess, I could take have a Salvia experience and experience elves or something. I don't know, just an example. And then in my trip report, I could be like, the shepherdess was showing me elves or whatever. But it's like, was there a shepherdess there? Or are you just using that language to describe something that didn't actually happen? Like, yes, there were elves, but the shepherdess wasn't there. So, yeah, that's why I try to say, like, be as direct to the experience as possible. And all the information you can, like, that's why it's really, I mean, it's not for the sake of the report. It's good to know your dose. It's always good to know your dose and like what substances you're taking, but like also to like write it down and like know how long it took and like what experience you had on like each level or the peaks or waves or whatever. Never do it. Honestly, I don't plan to. You've probably seen my Datura video, like I'm aware that it can mess you up. Also, don't buy MDMA as it is very dirty. Most often, you fall out of consciousness. Nonetheless, two worse things. Honestly, I've had like 3 or 4 MDMA experiences, and every time I just couldn't get off on it. And it's probably like you're saying, it's probably just like wasn't clean substance. I don't even, like, that's the thing, like I don't even know if it was MDMA. I never got the test kit, so I think that's why it's really important to get test kits. I have nothing against MDMA. I just think it needs to be really done responsibly, and most of the time it's not. My art is black magic spells I can cast on people. Cool. Interesting. Do you still post that on Instagram? Like, that's not gonna hex me to see it, will it? It's like forgetting what page of the book you're on. Yeah, I can imagine that. Here, I'm gonna see if I can add Kit back to this moderator. Add moderator. There we go. Kit is now a moderator again. Find Salvia's best when you build a relationship up over time. It feels like building a vehicle in that space. Yeah, I can imagine that. Like, every time I do it, it's like time compresses, and it's like the start of the new trip is like takes off right where the last trip ended. It's really incredible. Yeah, Nicholas Carlo, you can like send me voice messages over Instagram. That works too. You're texting just fine though. I can pick it up. Honestly, like my autocorrect is really bad too, and sometimes I just like, especially in live chats, I tend to like be a much more messy writer. So yeah, don't sweat it. It's fine. I get the gist. If you're gonna buy MDMA, don't buy pills. Just buy pure rock. Yeah, I'd probably agree. But again, get test kit. In India, there is a drink of cannabis plus datura in ratio. Powerful psychedelic, most ancient Indian knowledge is suppressed. About those pills. Oh, oh well, I'm a little disappointed, King Carnage. I definitely heard about the cannabis drinks. Like I have a friend from India, and he was saying that that like smoking weed is illegal, but like there's like a yearly event where they like drink this cannabis brew, and it's totally socially acceptable. But I didn't hear that there was a datura scopolamine in it. I think that's a little bit more dangerous. Oh, Tyler Riles is here. Right on. Tyler, do you mind if I introduce you? I won't if you don't want me to. But yeah, I was talking about next week's video. Oh, sorry. If you can get drugs tested professionally for free in Canada. Oh yeah, I didn't even realize that. If you're in Canada, you can get them tested for free apparently. Um, uh, I'm not reading that. Didn't they make Salvia chewing gum in Germany at one point? I haven't heard about that, but I could see that working pretty well. Like as long as it's like, honestly, that sounds like it would probably be a pretty good method. If you can make like an extract chewing gum. Oh yeah, yeah. So Tyler Riles is the Salvia subreddit moderator, and we're creating together this the Salvia archetypes forum, and we're gonna like try to fit it onto the Salvia subreddit. And so like hopefully we can get, you know, people, not just people who watch Interbeing art, but people who are interested in Salvia to submit reports to, because I think that'd be great. Like I really I'm trying to like it's like it's not like be the change you want to see in the world, but like, you know, you want a project to be happening, and so like I'm trying to like pass it off, and like there's a lot of people who are interested, but like and we brainstormed for a while, so like I feel like if I just like get it so that the wheels are turning, then it'll just go, hopefully. How do you feel about meme culture dragging Alex Gray, Tool, and anything that includes hyper development? It has never felt more cringe to be deep. Yeah, I think it was kind of warranted, you know. I still like Tool and Alex Gray, but like yeah, it's good to see like the cringier aspects of those, of like the whole fake deep thing, and like I think, cause especially for me, like I went through a whole new age spiritualist phase, so yeah, so like I tend to be like, yeah, I can totally see the cringy aspects now, but that's just because like I'm growing and changing, you know. Like I I liked Tool a lot when I was like 14, 15. So it's not that like Tool is objectively bad, but like, you know, when you change as a person, like I've known about Tool for 17 years now, so there's still some Tool songs like Push It, for example, that just like it still gets me. Like it's still like absolutely amazing. But I just didn't dig their new album. I was just like, it just didn't do it for me. It felt like it was like overproduced and no passion. But like I need to listen to it again, I guess. But like, because I did sometimes like you don't like new music right away, but yeah, sometimes yeah, memes are all over the map though. Like sometimes you like read a meme and you're like, just I totally don't agree. But like I know some meme pages like hate Tool, and I'm like, okay, well like they're okay. One time I did anime and with a random chemical, it made me see LSD like patterns on a wall. Maybe it was 2CB. Stayed up all night on speed. Shadow people. Oh, that's a thing. That's a thing. Yeah. On holy thing, cannabis, eaten for medicinal benefits. Salvia plus cannabis is a very effective combination, but can be pretty shocking. Yeah, I agree. Actually, like, in my experience, like I felt like everything became dysphoric when I did Salvia. So, like, I didn't like my clothes were bothering my skin, the smoke was bothering my lungs. I just wanted fresh air. That was like seemed like the only thing that was like really good for me. But like the cannabinoid in my brain kind of became dysphoric too. Like for the first time, like it didn't feel good to have that, because like everything, like I just like wanted no more stimulation, please. I was like, no more stimulation. Can I just like be sober? Yeah, right. Back to the Salvia Reddit thing. Tyler made this really cool Salvia vocabulary page, which is like just like another thing that's under development, like trying to like make new words to describe Salvia experiences, because a lot of the experiences are very hard to describe, and I used and I used some of them in the archetypes keyword list. So like it's really helpful, but like I still feel like there's still so much we can that could be communicated, but we just don't have quite the right language. And so like so as of right now, we're just kind of like condensing or like combining words. Like, what was that one word? Was it like stretching, or it was like strinking? I think it was strinking, wasn't it? Shrinking and stretching. I love that one. That one tickled me. Archetype number one of dreams. What's the archetype number one of dreams? Yeah, I'm hoping we can have a scholarly type of look at this too. At the very least, it's people who can like look at over the data and like be like, okay, this is like pretty good stuff. I'm thinking there'll like be like layers of like verification. For example, when somebody first submits a form, that's like the first layer or first tier, and because then someone else needs to review it, make sure the archetypes are indeed there, that it's accurate, it's not just fraudulent or just like some spam. And so that's like tier 2, and we'll figure that system out later. It's an ongoing process, you know. Usually, like if I wanted to, I could have just like made one Salvia archetype video this year at the end of the year, and it's like I got it all planned out, I thought it all the way through. But no, I'm bringing you along with me, and you can see me fumbling the ball the whole time. Like, if you go back to my Salvia archetype science, towards science of Salvia archetypes video, when did I do that? Not March or April, I think it was. Yeah, so strinking. Yeah, that was a good one. Cascadian art. I'm glad you're here. It's good to see these people. I said I was only going to be an hour, but you all are just like making this chat just so lit, so lit. Why take Salvia knowing it's dysphoric? Okay, well the dysphoria is only like really like unbearable when you do like the 3 big hits, like the McKenna heroic dose method. Sorry, the heroic dose is 5 dried grams, but like still, like the idea with the whole thing is like, don't diddle the dose. Once you do your research, do take the plunge. But with Salvia, because it's dysphoric, that's can be very, very dangerous. I actually think it's dangerous for the other psychedelics too. I don't believe that anymore. Just because like even if you do your research, you do a little bit too much DMT, or maybe you're sensitive to it, and all that research is out the window because you don't know who you are anymore, or that you ever were human, and you're just like in this agonizing eternal hell or something like that. Who knows? Like it's really best to ease into these experiences so you don't harm yourself or your psyche. But my point is with Salvia and dysphoria, it's not actually that bad if you take it slow and lighter. It's the dysphoria actually can be pleasant, surprisingly, which you would think wouldn't be the case, but it is. It's especially at low doses, is actually like quite pleasant. And the other reason why Salvia is desired, like, cause like I could just do DMT or mushrooms or whatever. It's honestly, it's an aesthetic thing, to be quite frank. Like, Salvia produces unique hallucinations, you know? Whereas with DMT, you get bejeweled, opalescent, ever-shifting machinelles. With Salvia, you get cartoon blocks wearing t-shirts in this like flat, stretchy. Like it's a totally different aesthetic experience. So it's really cool, especially like for any artists or anything like that, or just anybody that wants like atypical experiences. That's why Salvia would be desirable. Otherwise, I would recommend people stick with like the more pleasant, euphoric psychedelics, because they can still be terrifying and unpleasant, but it's at least they're euphoric. But yeah, I think Salvia can be taken responsibly. I've met people who are like, no, I don't like psychedelics except for Salvia. So it's all just taste, you know, it's the person. Is LSD legal or decriminalized where you are? No, but 1P LSD is currently legal. I don't think, as far as I know, it's not illegal anywhere yet, and that can be bought online through like chemical, like research chemical distributors. You'll need to give, like, at least in Canada, you need to give your ID and your reason why you need the substance. Just make sure that you don't say it's for human consumption. Like, as you could just be like, I'm testing the acidity of this acid. That's all you need to say. The pH. That's a good approach, would be taking audio recordings of people recounting the experience to have AI-derived transcripts and map the word frequency. Yeah, like I can't slam oral teachings or like stories or whatever, or reports, because like our culture is very much more text-based. Like when it's in writing, then it's solidified. But there, like, lots of cultures, especially like indigenous cultures, like oral traditions were like the primary way of keeping information and keeping generational knowledge. So like if someone didn't want to write out their experience and they wanted to describe it instead, yeah, that's fine. And then like you said, we can just like get the AI translator. Probably a human might have to fix it up a little bit. Auto translate can be a little bit messy sometimes, especially with words like salvia. I noticed, like, in my earlier videos, especially, like, it would often auto translate to like some like weird like salvia. I don't even know. A salvin or an A, it couldn't autocorrect very well. Definitely when someone first submits a form, I totally agree that there should be some sort of proofreading from someone with a kind of experience. No, yeah, there'll be like thorough many layers of double checking. Also, like, the stronger for when you're filling out the forms, you don't have to fill out everything. Like, for example, the trip report, or whoever like wrote the trip report might not have given their age or weight. A lot of times they don't. But whenever you can get that information, it makes for stronger data. So I think there'll be even like a tier list for that too. Like the stronger, like the more we know surrounding the trip report, the better. For example, someone in comment sections, you get this a lot. Someone will be like, I experienced the salvia, I experienced the shepherdess too. And that is probably like the weakest form of a report you can get, because you don't know when, you don't know what the dose was it even the substance they're saying, like, like there's a lot of details to it too. Like when someone writes a report, there is always like an aspect of it that like maybe some of this was exaggerated, maybe someone could be lying. But when it's a whole report, it's less likely that they're making it up versus someone that's like, yeah, I experienced the shepherdess too, I want to be included. Like, I don't want to like doubt anyone's validity or whatever. I'm just saying in terms of like the strength of the data, dose, how much did you smoke, were you on anything else, what was the setting you were in, anything else that could be relevant. The more data surrounding the report, the stronger the data is. So I'll have to come up with some kind of tier system there. But the goal is that we'll have enough or good enough data to then get it peer reviewed. That like to like review it. That it's well, I don't even know what would be being peer reviewed, but like there will be like definitely like verifying that this stuff is accurate enough. I'm not entirely able to do it, but I know the tools we would need, how to get them, implement them in a basic way. What tools are you speaking of? Are you speaking of like a auto translate transcripts or whatever? Because like once we get that, then we can just like control F and like, you know, any like keywords we're looking for. But I find like the keywords are only kind of like a loose thing right now, because one archetype can be described in so many different ways. It's hard to know every single way someone's going to say it. And the one I always remember as an example is people always describe pages, but they're also described as plates, tiles, flipbook animations, so many different words. One time it was strips of leather, like moving strips of leather. And if I like did a control F at the top of the web page and was like looking pages, tiles, no, nothing. Flattened, no, nothing. Like, because we wouldn't have using that method, we wouldn't have got that this was an experience that was happening. So it's like, that's why like it takes like a human to go in there and being like, oh, this person is describing this experience, or at least it's very like correlated. So like that's why like it'll be a complicated thing, but we'll see how it goes. I get that this can't be answered without generalizing a bit, but what is the most psychedelic genre of music for you? Oh, in my opinion, honestly, like electronic schpongle kind of stuff. That's really like, I feel like it's getting closest to the pure form of like the kind of music you would hear in like in psychedelic states. It used to be like really avant-garde stuff like Pink Floyd was doing during like Gumma was like the most psychedelic thing in the world to me for the longest time. But there's like lots of different flavors of psychedelic, so it's hard. Right now, like a big psychedelic phase right now, because like I'm surprised that psychedelic music is still popular. I'm using that term loosely, but you know, we got bands like MGMT, we got Tame Impala, even Mac DeMarco. That's like not known as a psychedelic artist, but like because of the pitch shifter or whatever, it's like still got that very much that psychedelic vibe. Crumb is really good too. I could probably go on and on. There's like so many psychedelic kind of bands right now. But the most psychedelic, like in terms of like I put on and just like I'm just like totally so tripped out. Man, I think just like real like noisy electronic layered stuff, you know, like MGMT's self-titled album is probably like just like really gets you in a thick psychedelic state or whatever. But that's the thing, it's like psychedelic aesthetic can blend so much that like it's hard to know like what you mean by that. If you mean like the most trippy, like the most far out, or like do you mean like the most like accurate to the psychedelic experience, or do you mean like you know, there's so it's hard to say. Like you said, it's impossible to answer, but that was my attempt. It's not 100% dysphoric. Yeah, I agree. I feel like reward is more stimulating after Salvia experiences too, like as if straining out your dopamine or something, LOL. Actually, yeah, this is Tyler, that's a great point, because that was brought up by Peter Addy that it's like can be potentially used to help get people off of cocaine addictions, because it's like it's basically like a but it resets your reward system. It kind of like brings it back down so you can actually like detox from like having such high expectations, you know, because like because that's the thing, like how humans work is like we get up out of bed and eat something because that's like our reward system that like propels us to do those things. But when we have drug experiences, like I don't know if cocaine can do this. Like I know cocaine is pretty bad, but like things like heroin and especially like meth, they like excite your dopamine receptors so much that, you know, it's like screw food, screw sex, screw getting up out of bed, as like there, because there is no better reward than this drug. So it's really good to reset yourself so you can actually function again. And I'm not trying to say like everyone who does those drugs automatically become like bedridden or whatever, but like just like generally speaking in terms of like how reward system works. So like I would really like to see more research in salvia helping with addictions. That would be amazing. See, I've never done it, bro. It sounds really scary. It is sort of like shrooms when you do 1 gram and you're aware you could poop your pants and you'd care or wouldn't care maybe. But if you take, say, an eighth, you could shit your pants and just laugh. Minecraft trip. Yeah, well, don't feel like you have to try everything, you know, because like again, just because salvia is interesting doesn't mean it's right for you. Like you honestly, it's pretty justified to be intimidated by salvia. But again, like my method is incremental dosage. So, you know, technically you could take cyanide an incremental dosage and not like die off of it, because like you would know when you start feeling like icky effects or whatever. So like with not recommending you take cyanide, oh my god. But if you like build up your salvia dose, then you shouldn't like have such a strong bad psychological trip or whatever. Okay, I'm gonna try to read through just a few more because now I'm like almost an hour and 40. And then I will see you all next Wednesday when I do another live stream. Salvia used to be hella easy to access, but I could never find DMT. But now I'm overflowing with DMT and can't find salvia. Oh, that's weird how the tables have tabled there. Yeah, salvia used to be available in all corner stores, but now it's not as much anymore, especially not in Canada. DMT is hard to find. For me, I really had to seek it out, you know, just like it's not usually the thing that's available. It's interesting that it is for you. Maybe maybe you're drawn to it. I don't know. If it doesn't scare you, you probably didn't take enough. Yeah. Yeah, it's just like easing into it. Like it's okay to be scared, but like there's nothing wrong with being scared or whatever. It's more so like, especially with the nociception dysphoria with salvia, like it can actually be like really psychologically painful if you like do too much or hit it too hard. Like you can actually like really screw yourself up. This poor person, a trip report I read one time, they like took ADX not knowing what it was, and they were just like propelled through like realms like a constant, like a never-ending mirror, and they're just like smashing everything in the room, and they just like I don't know if they ever recovered from it. Like they couldn't smoke weed anymore. They would like they couldn't feel like every time they walked they felt like they were gonna fall over. They like couldn't, they lost equilibrium and stuff like that. I get so it's so very, very important to like take it slow or whatever. I know some people that like they're like, yeah, I'm gonna hit the ADX really hard because like I'm not really feeling much, because they have such a high tolerance for it. But you won't know that unless you like build up slow, because if you look up CG Kid, that's a drug information person, YouTuber. I like his content a lot, but he talked about his Salvia trip, and it was really intense for him. He got like a really like bad, strong Salvia experience. It was only 5x, you know? I couldn't get off on 5x, but gosh darn it, like, could you imagine if I could get off on 5x, and when I tried 20x for my first time, like, I'm glad 20x actually was my baseline, because like I've gone down below 20x and didn't really do it for me. But man, like, if a CG kid tried 20x for the first time, I can only imagine the damage. Is there a reproachable vendor for 1P? If you're in Canada, that would be ChemLogix. Yeah, and if you're looking to like test the pH level of this stuff, try to look up, maybe look in Reddits and stuff like that, like see how it's written too, just like make sure that you seem legitimate, that you're like trying to conduct a study or whatever. They also sell a 4-ACO DMT, which is another psychedelic I would like to try. Sounds really interesting. Of all like probably it's like the one on my list that I want to try the most that I haven't tried yet. I didn't say that right, but you know what I mean. Of all the psychedelics I haven't tried, I think 4-ACO and mescaline are like the two top ones. But honestly, above that is quitting Salvia. I still haven't tried that. That would be really cool. Let's see. Okay, have a great night, Flavs. Okay. Oh man, how long did I, like... There's a lot that I miss. All right, I'm gonna get back to it. Nicholas Carlo, you did 100x. Oh my gosh. Oh wow. Right, Nicholas, did you have you ever messaged me on Instagram? If you haven't, please do, and I'd like to talk more about your experience. Because like sometimes it's hard, because like you'd be surprised how many people like come to me saying, I tried Salvia and it was traumatic. Oh, right on. Yeah, you could shoot me a message either on Patreon or Instagram. I'd love to talk more about it if you're into it. We can even do voice messages if you're oh, right on, Temple of AE, right on. That's awesome. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so everyone, if you ever want to talk to me, you can always just shoot me a message, on email me or whatever. I'm gonna update the Discord for the Salvia archetypes. I'm not the moderator for that Discord. I didn't create that. I think I was made a mod, but I just like I haven't been active in it, and I feel like I feel guilty for that, because like there's a lot of people like that want to be involved in this project, and I'm just like I feel like I haven't been putting in the time, and I don't want that to come off as me not being appreciative. Like I think that's like it's just so cool that like people actually want to be involved in this. So like I think this forum will allow people to like be more able to participate at their leisure. So I'm gonna update the Discord and like add anybody else who wants to join. Yeah, I forget which video I said it, but I said like I might make a Discord for like just like fans of the channel or whatever. But I just decided like, yeah, it's just too much pressure for me to like be managing a Discord. So like if anybody wanted to make a Discord, just talk about whatever, like always feel free, and like I can maybe just shout it out or something like that. Whatever of whatever interest. Yeah, so you can hear how sleepy I'm getting. I'm gonna get on that video tomorrow and also do the outstanding homework I have. And yeah, just reject icons. Joe Rogan is not the icon of DMT. And I'm not the icon of Salvia. What are some good legal psychs? Oh, like I was saying before, 1P LSD, 4-ACO DMT, peyote in Canada is legal, which is awesome. Salvia is technically legal, which is like probably my fave. I think there are some ways you can make pharmawaska that are legal, because like DMT and then DMT is illegal. Oh, don't take it if you didn't like it. That's for sure. Don't take Salvia if you didn't like it. Yeah, because DMT is illegal, but it's also in like a lot of things. So they can't make most substances on the earth illegal. It's in like a lot of living things. So like there's a lot of different ways to like get the two main ingredients of ayahuasca and brew it at home that through legal means. I think like some of the research ones, like I think 2CB is illegal, unfortunately, but yeah, I'm sure there's some others. LSA is always one too. Oh yeah, I have heard that some places are selling mushrooms legally. Yeah, that's honestly, it's incredible. By the time you'll be alive, mail order psychedelics, so good. All right, everyone. I had a fun time. It was great talking to you, everyone. Yes, hot grass is totally safe. Yeah, so I don't know if the live chat will still be going after I leave or whatever, so you can feel free to like keep chatting for a little bit. But I'm gonna log off now. I'm gonna get some rest. And yeah, the plan is to be doing this every Wednesday. And if I can, if I find the time, I'll chop up and do some highlights or whatever. But I'm glad y'all like to hang out tonight, and I had a really great time. Thank you, PB. Thank you for coming. Limina, good night. It's great seeing you. I'm like desperately thinking like, is there like a nice smooth way of like saying goodbye? But honestly, I can't think of anything. Oh, I do want to thank my patrons though. Like honestly, like they really keep this content coming, and yeah, that stuff really makes life feel a bit more fulfilling. Obviously, like I'm gonna find ways to like fulfill my life in one way or another, but like this is just a very fulfilling thing to do, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, thank you all very much. Thank you to my patrons and subscribers, and yeah, I'll see you next week. Stay in touch. Follow me on all the things. Message me anytime. All right. I'm going to end it now. Have a great night, everyone. Great week, too. Stay safe. Robots.